Yeah, I owe them an apology. But I don't owe them an apology for anything that I've done to them. I didn't do anything physically crazy to them, and locked them in closets and things like that. So I don't owe them an apology for that. But I do owe them an apology for situations that they were put in and things that they weren't exposed to. They shouldn't have been exposed to any gripes, grudges, or complaints that I had in relation to their mom, and they shouldn't have been involved with the discontent, the disruption, the dissolution of what was going on between her and I. And I never put them in the mix, but I always felt myself combating situations that I was putting in their presence, because they was the pawns, and everything. Again, situations were manipulated to make me look like a monster, and I just owe them an apology for not being a level-headed man and a level-headed father who should have seen past that, and not expose my children to those things, because I know they seen it, they remember it, and it may have very well shaped the way they are as an adult, and it definitely shaped our relationship while I was attempting to raise them. And so I owe them an apology for that.
Modus the one.
The streets don't love you, they never will. The streets full of smoke and mirrors, it's never real. The streets got the boys shooting like a Navy SEAL, until the shot missed them off and get a baby kill. The streets not in the game, the streets will tell. Working people don't hustle with you, the streets will tell. And hope you rot behind bars or die in a cell. Them people want you in the jail, you make their life a living hell.
All for your love of the streets, you never getting back. And you gonna die in these streets, and that's that. Don't believe the streets are half of these niggas who rap. Didn't have a dollar in the trap.
For absolutely no fucking reason at all at points, to be quite honest with you. And I wish that she wasn't, because had she not been, it could have been she was bitter over the way things was playing out in her personal life. And a lot of times when people's personal life isn't going good and they see you, the first thing they want to do is attack yours. And I understand that now. But back then that wasn't the vibe. The vibe back then was, you hit me, I'm gonna hit you back. But had I had a different understanding of how to maneuver through certain things, I wouldn't have, by my own actions, by my own anger, by my own poor judgment, I wouldn't have reacted to things and put my children in situations that they shouldn't have been in, and exposed my children to things that they shouldn't have been exposed to the best of my ability. Because even back then, I really was on my P's and Q's. And like I said, she just was a motherfucker. She made situations harder than what they had to be. Little stuff like, you pick the kids up at 5 o'clock on Friday afternoon. When you come to get the kids on 5 o'clock on Friday afternoon, they're ready. They're ready. Their bags is packed. They done did their homework. They ready to go with you for the weekend. You don't never have a problem on pickup. I was supposed to get the kids back at 12 o'clock on a Sunday. I come over there. Nobody's answering the door. I got to be on the door for 20, 30 minutes because you sleep, because you was partying the night before. I got to call the police because you don't want to open the door, or you telling me stuff like I'm not getting them because you got something to do with them. And, so it's stuff like that, that I owe them an apology for. Even though I wasn't 100% the person in control of the ship, I was in control of my actions and my emotions. And sometimes I did a horrible job at staying in control of my emotions and actions. And for that, I owe them an apology.
So how is your relationship with your family?
Well, I don't have a relationship with my children now. I don't have a relationship with my children now. I haven't spoken to my daughter in about 7 months. Last I spoke to her was she was here for the Memorial Day weekend, and I haven't spoken to her since then. That's another story in itself. My two other children actually live about 3 miles from here, and I haven't seen one of them in about 4 months. And then my youngest son, I see him sparingly, you know. And even sometimes when I see him, when we did the Fail Father, I mentioned that I'm a utility. So even with my youngest son, who I still maintain some communication with, and there's even a minimal level of a relationship, that relationship only exists because I'm a utility to him. So when he needs something, yeah, he'll call me. Well, he won't call me, but if he needs something, he'll text me. And he'll ask me a question. Can I do this or help him with this or whatever have you? But outside of that, he doesn't speak to me either. So I don't know if you would call. You can't call the first two a relationship. And like I said, with the youngest one, I'm hanging on needle in the thread. But yeah.
Do you think you could fix the relationship?
Anything's possible. And with the right work and with the right understanding and with the right dialogue, yeah, bad relationships can be mended. I'm not above or past thinking that the relationships can't be mended because first off, I don't feel like I'm ducking or dodging a relationship with them. I'm not ducking and dodging healing the relationship. I'm not ducking and dodging wanting to fix it. I'm just keeping my distance because I've been kind of pre-positioned as the outsider. And so I just keep my distance because I don't need to disrupt it any more than what it is. Now, that might be the wrong thing to do. That might be another bad decision that I'm making right now, real time. But I got to do what's best for me at this point. I mean, I'm talking about a family with 3 adult kids, and I don't have to go insane. They don't want to talk to me. They don't talk to me. And, I'll swallow that pill and I'll move on.
What would you say to them individually?
The conversations would be very, very different with all 3 of them because all 3 of them experienced something totally different. It's like the telephone game. We're all in the same room and we all think we heard the same thing, but all of us heard something different. It's kind of the same thing with them. They was all in the same household, was all experiencing the same situation, but I'm sure all 3 of them experienced it different. And because of that, the conversations and the apologies to each of them would be very, very different. Quickly, for my youngest son, I would simply say, sorry that it took this long, because he got the bad end of the stick. All right, when the divorce started, he was 8. My daughter was 11. My oldest son was 13. And so they maneuvered through it fairly quickly, opposed to him, right? So my oldest son, he 5 years in his divorce process. With me and his mom, he aged out. My daughter, 7 years in his divorce process, she ages out. My son is 10 years in. He stayed in it the longest and had to deal with a lot more of it. So to him, sorry that it took so long. My daughter, I don't know what I do to you. I would really have to sit down with her and figure it out. But I would say off top, whatever it was that I did, whatever it is that I've done, I would, sincerely apologize for that. but I would like to know what it is first, so I can really apologize and not just make some open-ended statement. And for my oldest son, hey, I've apologized to him on an occasion before. But my biggest gripe with my son is my son, he wants things easy. And I'm not going to apologize for that. I'm not going to apologize for standing on the square and telling him that he needs to stand on one and be a man as well. But if there was an apology that needed to be afforded to him, maybe my tone or maybe my selection of vocabulary could have been different to convey my message, and that would be my apology towards him. Sorry for being abrasive and maybe being a little bit too rugged, but yeah, that's what I would say to him. That's what I would say to him. That's what I would say to the three of them. Just at a minimum. In more detail, of course.
Can you change anything right now?
Well, I don't think there's anything that I can do right now at the moment to change anything. Again, timing is everything. So the timing is still not right, even right now at this moment. We're still not in spaces where I think we could communicate. At least I feel like that on their part. I'm be very honest with you, and I'm being very, very subjective right now. But I don't think that they're in a space where they can sit down and have an adult conversation. I'm talking about a real adult conversation where, where we're dialoguing something with logic, and we're not just raising our voices because, they grew up in the era and being in a space with their mom to some extent, that whoever raises their voice the loudest wins the argument. And so I can't have a dialogue with them right now because of that. Because I'm not going to get in a shouting match with you. I'm also not going to get into a space with you where everything that's being communicated is going to be communicated solely on an emotional standpoint. It's not going to be about fact of what was going on. And I do understand a lot of gripes come from how you made somebody feel. I absolutely understand that. But again, with making things right with them and trying to figuring out how to change something to make things right, you would have to put those emotions aside. And you would have to really come to the table with logic and have a conversation based on fact that's logical. And I don't think that can happen right now. So I don't think anything could change right now because of that, because we can't communicate.
How could you have been a better father?
Well, I would have been a better father if I knew what I was doing. I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I didn't know what I was doing. And I don't think she knew what she was doing either, So I think we can both high-five each other for that. I'm 19, she's 18, we got a baby. We had absolutely no clue on what we was doing. We went from being boyfriend and girlfriend, her living with her family, me living with mine, at the beginning of the year. In January of that year, she was living with her family, I was living with mine. She was 18, I was 19. By the end of that year, she was 19, I was 20, we was married, we had a baby, and we was 1,400 miles in the middle of the country moving from Brooklyn, New York to Fort Riley, Kansas. That's a hell of a transition in 12 months. So I didn't know what I was doing. That's how I could have been a better father. If I would have knew what I was doing, I could have been a better father. I could have been a better father. I could have been a better husband. And that was the beginning of it. So I came out the gate not knowing what I was doing. Came out the gate not knowing what I was doing as a husband or as a father, because I never was a husband before. I was a boyfriend. I knew how to be a boyfriend. I knew how to pick you up and take you to the movies and buy you something for your birthday. And then you go home and I go home and I might not see you for 2 days. And then when I see you again 2 days later, we got so much to talk about. It's different when the person is right there next to you every day, all day. You have no more stories. They're there. They was there when it happened, right? It's not just about you and her no more. It's about you, her, and this child, or you, her, and these children later on in the marriage. And I'm figuring all that out in real time, not knowing what I was doing. Just being a provider, because I knew that's what you were supposed to do, right? That's the instinctive thing, and that was the model that I had. I had a great template. My dad on being a material provider, but I was lost in the sauce with how to nurture a family, 3 small children, a wife, how to still treat the wife like a girlfriend, how to be goofy and wrestle with the kids on the living room floor, but be stern and they know that dad's the serious one. And I'm trying to balance all of these things all alone while finding myself. While finding myself, I'm doing these things as well. I'm doing all of these things while trying to find myself very early in my life. I'm 25 with 3 kids and a wife. So things happen very fast. So I could have been a better father if I knew what I was doing. I didn't know what I was doing. I was freestyling. Had no clarity of what I really wanted or needed. I just freestyled a lot of stuff and did what I thought was right as both a husband and a father.
What is your measure of success?
Be to ultimately not end up in the position that I'm in now with having children that don't communicate with you, having a family that doesn't communicate with you. I mean, it gets very lonely when your birthday passes and there's nobody to call you and tell you happy birthday. Nobody sends you a card. Nobody's knocking on the door and taking you to dinner. It gets very lonely. And I wouldn't wish that on anyone who knew they had, family in the form of kids out there, So my measure of success would be to have a family that's loving and nurturing and still together. And what I mean by together, I mean still communicating, still sharing their lives, their time, and their experiences with one another. And I don't do those things with my adult children. And so that would be success to me. Being able to still stay in tune with them. And it's not over. Life, that is, not over. I'm just really on a quest to make myself better, to make my understanding of a few things better, so that I may potentially get back into a space where I can be in their lives in a productive manner. I mean, I have a granddaughter. I would like to be there. We see how that works out.
I was out of touch with the emotional connection of being a father. I didn't provide that emotional support for them the way they needed it when they needed it the most as children at their most vulnerable point. I emulated and enhanced the father that I had for my children. My father was present. He was in the household. He provided what he could within his means and was a disciplinarian. And I was those things for my children in addition to providing a lifestyle that was what I felt was better than mine, and attempted to facilitate experiences so that they could have memories, so that they could enjoy their childhood, so that our lifestyle would be the norm and they would potentially create a life better for themselves and their future families as adults. What I failed to do was those same things my father didn't, unfortunately. I wasn't a communicator on their level, learning how to have effective communications with very small minds. I wasn't as emotionally in tune with children as I should have been. And maybe I wasn't fun at times. But I was frequently dealing with situations that had to be attended to in order to ensure that they was going to be provided for. And I wouldn't expect a child to understand those ramifications and parameters that I was operating within.